All right, welcome to part two of today's social distillation episode. We had been talking, and I don't remember if we've mentioned it while we were recording or not, of this
No,
war,
I
for
just
lack of a better
texted
word.
you. Yeah, I just
Okay,
texted you about it. Yeah.
this kerfuffle going on the right with regards to Israel and the reaction to Israel and the Israel Hamas fight that's going on right now.
And in all fairness, we want to keep this talk focused, so we're going to talk about this kerfuckle. Kerfuckle. It is the kerfuckle, but
Yeah.
it's actually blowing up the left too. But it's a completely different conversation. This
Mhm.
thing in the Middle East is blowing up all the tribes.
Which is interesting in the ways it's happening because let me start on the left then, and then
Well, let's be brief on it. I want to be focused on this in this talk,
right.
but
So it's interesting to me of what's happening on the left because there is some really bizarre dissonance that's happening when you have, who was it, Rashida Tlaib, I think it was, who had in her office the Palestine flag right next to the rainbow flag. You realize in a big part of that world, if you are waving the rainbow flag, you are literally thrown off a roof. Yeah, I think the Babylon Bee had a headline about the Palestine flag throwing the rainbow flag off the top of the Capitol from Rashida Tlaib's office. And so there is a bizarre dissonance that's going on there. But then there's some weird stuff happening on the right too. But I want to get your perspective on it
well,
before I
for
give
for
mine.
for me, part of this is something that I've talked about since episode one. Is this is why I claim independent. I will not be in a political party. I don't even identify. I mean, identify as mostly liberal, but by principle, the believing in the individual and universal humanity. The key word of it, liberty. I believe in that, but you still can't even put me in that box. You can't say you're a libertarian or anything because as soon as you're in a box, at some point you're going to be forced to contradict yourself. And in the political realm, in Talib's world, she's a Democrat. She's a progressive. She was back in the day, during the Bush era of, oh, you're Islamophobic and da 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 da. But she's also forced to say, I believe in all of these other things because I'm an American politician. And she because of her box that she's in as Democrat, as progressive, she has to contradict herself. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's uh I think that's what we're getting a little bit on the right as well too.
You know what? It's interesting that you go there because one of the things I wanted to bring up when I talked about this was the bizarreness and for me what is rather infuriating of who are the pillars of this fight of Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. That that's what a lot of the right is talking about is how this disagreement has manifested with these two characters. And I use that word on purpose, not people, these two characters, because that's what they are. They are media characters. And my one of my points was going to be that, and it is because of something we talked about in part one, which was the slippery slope you get on when you start to um overemphasize the thing rather than the principle that led you to the thing. Okay, is I'm all in for my team so much so that I make irrational decisions when the whole point of associating yourself with a sports team in the first place was a release from the day-to-day worries. Well, now instead of a release, you're compounding your problems because you've become so partisan. Same thing here. Because people have become so partisan and have disassociated the principles that supposedly underlie this movement, why the hell is Candace Owens a thing in the first place? Did we all forget where she came from, where she first came to prominence? It was here. 22 minutes and 54 seconds into an interview by Dave Rubin where he died on the inside 6 years ago. And everyone, I feel like everyone forgot this as soon as Candace Owens, and my recollection is she kind of disappeared after this for a little bit of social autopsy and the, you know, crap that went along with it and how that collapsed, and this insane rant, screed, cat fight between Blair White and Candace Owens. And then Candace Owens kind of disappears for a while. And then she comes back as this MAGA right wing conservative hero. And everyone forgot this moment.
So this is
Why?
before she was considered a conservative, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. But now she comes back, and one, she's on the right team because she's pro Trump. But let's be more real. She's black, she's a she, and frankly, she's pretty easy on the eyes. So she was elevated way past a point where she belonged. On the other hand, you have Shapiro, who is, you know, clearly emotionally attached to this, which is
Mhm.
odd for someone who is.
Well, and he's a little bit hawkish, anyways,
Mhm.
because you can go to the Ukraine stuff. He was a little bit more hawkish there than a lot of the
Yeah.
MAGA types.
Yep. Yep. But it's so there's so much disingenuousness in this fight that it's what this is actually about is getting lost. And so for me, the real takeaway from this fight should be, why are people like this our poster children anyway? Why has she developed such a following that that she can lead this fight? She is clearly not equipped to lead this fight. She is
Well,
clearly not equipped to deliver an intellectual argument.
uh, it's not just those things, her phenotype that you brought up earlier. It's that existed at a very specific time,
Mm-hmm.
and that we had George Floyd. And so that was the springboard, because I hadn't heard of her till after that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I looked up previous stuff like you just brought up, just to see who the heck she was,
Yeah.
because she was all of a sudden everywhere. And
Had you forgotten about the Blair White interview there with Dave? Because I remember
remember
talking about it when it
2016,
happened.
remember
Yeah.
I didn't follow things back then.
Okay. I remember we had talked about it previously, but I was wondering if your memory got jogged of, oh, she's that person when you started
No, I
looking
had
at
to
it.
look it
Yeah.
up, because
Okay.
I was this was when I basically worked myself into the hospital,
Mm.
because it was just that next year that happened. So this was back when it was the only thing that kind of ticked me off politically was Colin Kaepernick, because it was ruining the only time I took for
Yeah.
myself, which was football Sunday. And so the only thing politics that I was even semi privy to, and I didn't even know the why, it was just annoying me, was the Kaepernick stuff. So I had no clue who she was. I didn't know who Blair White was at the time. I didn't know who Dave Rubin was at the time. It was after I pulled away from running the gym all the time and had a little time that I was like, oh, I'm going to start making sense of these little things that piss me off. And that's what led down all this road.
Yeah.
So, recent history stuff. Yeah. You have to teach me.
And on the Shapiro side, there's also a disingenuousness here because I don't know how much say he has in what goes on at the Daily Wire, but he is a co-founder of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there comes the question of, one, why did you hire, well, not hire, but they're independent contractors actually. Why did you contract with this person in the first place? One, and two, if what she's saying is so horrible, why are you talking about it here instead of on a business level? Because to me, it seems like this is just obnoxious gamesmanship of, Owens is saying things to get herself fired because she doesn't want to quit the Daily Wire, because then she loses money or perhaps even has to pay back money depending on the contract. And the Daily Wire doesn't want to fire her because then they have to, there might be some kind of payout there. So to me, it seems utterly disingenuous that they're having this public fight the way they are. But then also on Shapiro's side, you spent months, if not a full year, calling people idiots because your wife is a doctor. He was dead wrong on the jab. And I don't know that he's really turned around on it. He was again dead wrong on Ukraine. And I forgot to pull up this clip. There's a clip of Owens talking with Tucker, and Tucker makes the point on that he was wrong on the two biggest issues on the right. Shapiro was wrong on this. And again, the disingenuousness of it. Tucker, you just had an interview with the guy who pushed the jabs and is still pushing the jabs and is still claiming that he saved millions upon millions of lives, and you never once asked him about it. So screw you claiming Ben Shapiro was wrong on one of the biggest issues of our time, when the guy who created the problem was sitting right in front of you and you didn't do a damn thing about it. All of these people are frauds as far as I'm concerned.
They're
It's
very
a
successful
grift.
frauds, though.
Very successful frauds. It's a grift. Contrast that with I think I referenced this, that Whitlock had on Daniel Horowitz, who is a religious Jew. He knows a lot about the politics of Israel, as well as the history of Israel. And Whitlock admits, I don't. And I have questions and concerns about what's going on here. So let me bring someone in who knows the issue, and let me ask honest but probing questions. Expressing these are my concerns. This is where I have problems, and let's talk about it.
Things that we should be doing anyway, we should be applying and learn from there. Jihad is true. So one of the things that I'm finding, because I'm very sympathetic, because what you're talking about is pretty much what I've been espousing. I believe, and this is not just an America problem, it's a Western civilization problem. Every Western government, without exception, is rotted out. Their institutions are rotted out. It's not an America problem. And every opposition is a controlled opposition. As much as...
All right. So explain what he's talking about there is that one of the annoying, stupid things that's happening on the right around the Israel issue is, well, if you opposed intervention and funding for Ukraine, how can you be on the side of Israel here? You're a warmonger, and you're inconsistent, and you're contradicting yourself. No, as Horowitz is pointing out here, politically, Israel has issues, has things that we would seriously disagree with, things that are, the WEF crap that we've been ranting about for years. Yeah, those problems are there. But it's also true that jihad is real, and that we have overwhelming evidence of what happened on October 7th. And yet people are bending themselves into pretzels to fit into these boxes and to fit into these camps, to your point, that they're making contradictory claims. On the right, you are doing exactly what Rashida Tlaib is doing when she says free Palestine on the one hand, and we stand with our LGBTQAI plus silent P, oppressed people. We stand with them too. You can't. You literally cannot stand with both those people at the same time. But if you forced yourself into this box, you can and you have to. Well, same thing here is there are dingleberries on the right who have forced themselves into this box where they have to declare that this is some false flag made up. And I can't, I've watched some of the video. I've watched some of the video of what happened on the 7th and the testimonies of eyewitnesses and the things they saw. And it's, you thought that opening 10 minutes of Saving Private Ryan was rough. It is impossible to watch and not, be emotional about it. So the people on the right who are doing this are idiots, and they're insane. They're the inverse of Trump derangement syndrome. They're the Trump Messiah syndrome. You're doing the exact same thing, but for a different reason, for a different cause, with a different effect. But it's the same mentality.
Yeah, and this is one reason that I think we've put off talking about some of this stuff, is because you just said it's hard not to see it with an emotional lens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very rarely it can put you in the right direction, but then you have to take a step back. And this is one area I really like Vivek's stance on, because his stance is Israel has a right to protect themselves. We should not be doing it for them. We should not be doing it with them. We should not be funding it. But we should be their diplomatic allies to say, get off their back.
And that's what Horowitz was talking about there,
Yeah.
when at the beginning of that clip, where he was talking about the things we should be doing for Israel now are things we should have been doing in the first place anyway.
Mm-hmm. But then I would like him to make one more statement on top of that, though, is there is a too far. Don't go too far to make us regret backing you. It's just like, okay, so if I'm out with the boys and one of them gets in a fight with another guy that I don't know, you can defend yourself. You can win the fight, but if he's down on the ground and you're kicking him in the face, then I have to come in and stop you. So don't take that step, and maybe even clearly define where that step is. Mm-hmm. But you have the right to defend yourself. You can do whatever you think you need to do. Here's a couple things that might be going too far, but we're going to diplomatically support you the rest of the way, just like you should diplomatically support us if we have to defend our border. And well, it's not even a border dispute. If the Native Americans rise up against us, what we would have to do, it's more along the lines of that. But it's a very, it's almost like a neutral stance, but still making sure that they know that you're their ally. But as long as is that stance, to me, not only is the proper one, but it's also the one that's least likely to have outside interference on Palestinian side as well. Because I think the most likely scenario that brings countries like Iran into this is that they think it's an unfair fight, because the US is helping, European Union is helping, the UN is helping, all of these things are helping. That's obviously an unfair fight. But if it's Hamas against Israel and there's going to be collateral damage in the middle, that's a different story, and it needs to stay that way. But I don't know where Horowitz was going with that, but that's Vivek's stance. I just wish he would make that extra statement of, there are things that are too far. Don't throw a chemical bomb in there and just kill everybody, right? That kind of stuff.
Well, my perspective would be that I don't know of any evidence where Israel has ever done anything like that.
They're sitting on the border of it. They're skirting that line, I think, in some ways. I said the Native Americans rising up because I did hear an example of this. Someone was talking about the right-wing talking point of, if Mexico was invading your border, what would you do? It's not the same, because Gaza is in the border. Gaza would be more akin to a reservation rising up against the United States than someone coming from a different country. And how would we handle that? We would probably send the FBI and CIA in there and find the culprits and get them out. And we would like to see Israel doing something more like that in Gaza, but we also understand that it's a little bit more technologically complex than us invading a reservation. So again, step back, but don't be too ridiculous. And I think they might be skirting that line, but it's still anti-interventionist would be my policy too.
Which was part of Horowitz's point of, these are things we should be doing anyway. Why do we have 1,000 personnel still in Syria? Why is CENTCOM in Qatar, which is which is fast replacing Iran as the biggest uh, uh, state sponsor of terrorism. Basically, they just do it in a different way than Iran does. Why are we spending so many resources in Lebanon, where it's hard to separate the Lebanese government and military from Hezbollah? Why are we doing all of this? So to his point, the way we should be helping Israel is by doing things we should have been doing in the first place.
Well, and to be even more nuanced, if we needed to make a special forces strike to rescue American hostages, yeah. If we needed to do that, and we can do it with surgical precision, that's still on the table too. A la Panama. People forget about Panama because we succeeded so well.
Yes.
That was one of the most successful military actions we've ever taken. Was the Noriega.
It was like a bigger Grenada. It was just it was overwhelming and overpowering and over so fast that people forget about it.
Yeah, we were so precision, we almost lost nobody. It was
I'm pretty sure our only losses were to friendly fire.
And that's why we don't remember it. Because it worked. Or we remember our debacles. We remember Vietnam. We remember Afghanistan, but that's more recent, so that's easier to remember. But nobody remembers Panama. If we had to do something like that for our hostages, okay, that's still on the table. So American intervention there, but that's for Americans. But then get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And we need to start figuring out why the hell we still have bases in Iraq and still have bases in Syria and still have all of these things that a lot of Americans thought were taken care of.
So, let me find something here because I want to cap this off from my point of view. Because we can't talk about this particular fight without looking at the bigger issue on the right, which is frankly the 500-pound orange gorilla in the room. So a big part of the divide here is who is more MAGA, who is more Trumpian. And that's why I call these media characters, because that's what they're playing for. That's the crowd they're playing for. Even though it is insane and nonsensical. And I should probably scroll up to the headline here, which this is from the Federalist from a few weeks ago. The populist right is leading the GOP into irrelevancy. And he sets this up by pointing out that by the metrics, by traditional political science, the GOP has never been in a better, no political party really has been in a better position to win over the opposite party than the GOP is right now, with how poorly the polls, which are iffy, but with how poorly people think of the current administration, with how badly the economy is doing, and yet they're not. You can look at the polls all you want, Tim Pool, but what's happening in the damned elections? The GOP are losing every single one of them. Why? Well, he says something here that he should have spent more time on, and I want to clue in on, which is that in some ways, Trump's success is reminiscent of Barack Obama's, which my lefty friends get pissed off at me when I pointed this out in 2016 of he's just the Republican Obama. They were both basically reality TV stars. And my lefty friends would get pissed off at that. But, oh, look, now actual intellectuals and professional pundits are saying the same thing. A president who was well liked by Democrats, but an electoral disaster for the National Party, which lost over 1,000 seats during his presidency. Why do I want to clue in on that? Because it ultimately didn't matter. Because Obama and the people aligned with him, he was an avowed, trained Marxist, which is all about power and institutional capture. They were willing to suffer a 1,000-seat loss across the nation because they were looking at the long term, which was the capture of these institutions, like the military, like the FBI, like the intelligence class. Trump didn't do that. You have all the negatives that went along with Obama, but with none of the gains, because there was no institutional permanent win. And yet, the vocal Trump supporters on the right won't let go of it. And it is causing both the media and the politicians to, as he says, take all the wrong lessons from 2016. Trump's greatest victories were completely in line with post-1980s Reagan conservatism: a tax cut, deregulation, constitutionalist judges, and tougher stances on crimes and lawlessness. But when Trump won Michigan and Pennsylvania in 2016, right-wing institutions convinced themselves that populist messaging was the future. In the meantime, those states are gone, and the GOP is going to end up losing Arizona and Georgia and others as well. The populists mock antiquated Reaganism. They seem to believe the era's message was predicated solely on tax cuts and forget the optimistic rhetoric that tied social and economic conservatism to prosperity and security. And it was far more effective than the dour victimhood and statism of the economic populist. Voters already have a big spending, pro-union, big government welfare state party. And Americans who have homes and kids and property taxes and bad schools and high grocery store bills aren't going to be moved by Trump's problems with the Justice Department or the plight of manufacturing jobs or Matt Gaetz's hurt feelings, which dominated the news for the month. It doesn't necessarily mean those issues aren't important, though some surely aren't, but that you need a coherent, holistic approach to politics that is completely undercut by opaque and constantly shifting demands of right populism. Social and economic conservatives like Brian Kemp, Ron DeSantis, and Glenn Youngkin, who, despite conventional wisdom, do well in a redistricted state that Biden won by 10 plus points, are the most successful politicians on the right. But because they wear the wrong boots or don't show enough subservience to Trump or aren't interested in relitigating 2020, or because they don't adopt a choleric tone, they're often dismissed as losers. Do you know what time it is? It's going to be 1977 forever if Republicans keep this up.
Yeah, that article was written from a GOP standpoint, though, with the same bias as that, because how much of the fact that the institution wasn't recaptured is because of the fact that GOP is captured? They didn't want to change. Mitch McConnell is everything we hate, and I don't know why he still has an office. He is everything we hate, and he's a Republican. And he fought Trump the whole way.
I would disagree with that. I think the problem is Trump didn't fight him.
No, Trump. Well, that's the thing. Trump did fight him, but he didn't know he needed the backing of him to fight him.
Trump endorsed him, and Trump endorsed his people
because he thought he would get the backing of him.
That's just how the point being, that's just how Trump plays. And so there was no institutional change because it's all about Trump.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. You have to know that and play with that. So if you want to make change in the other direction, and Trump is the biggest player involved, you get behind him and support him, not him getting behind you. If you get behind him and support him, he does what you want because that's what makes him feel good. And the Republican Party fought him as much as the Democratic Party because he was a populist. You have to have a united front. Obama ended up having a united front because everybody became progressives in his party. And even the non-progressives, like Speaker of the House, whatever her name was. Why is my brain not working? Pelosi, yeah. She's not a progressive, but she adopted progressive attitudes because it was the like you said, it was the way to power. She didn't change anything she did. She just adopted the Obama method to keep pushing forward, and basically the Democrats became a single arm. There weren't even fingers on this arm. It was just a big massive club. The only finger was freaking Tulsi Gabbard, and she was kicked out pretty fast. The Republicans didn't do that. The Republicans just kept fighting with each other.
Well, in large part because one of the points he makes in that article is that the right has made this a student council election, that it's all about the personality. And because they have thrown themselves so many of them have thrown themselves so completely behind Trump, well, that means you take the bad with the good. So if you are making the entire movement and the entire party all about Trump, then the non-politically active and aware, the unaligned, the most of the people in the middle out there, well, they're going to take your word for it. And so when they see all the negative parts of it, they're going to go, well, I don't trust the good parts because of all these negative parts. And so you're going to lose elections.
But from an independent standpoint, if I'm looking at this and saying, well, it's Trump versus the GOP, well, you'd know where I would go on that. It would be Trump over McConnell any day.
Okay, the problem is the GOP is bigger than that. And first of all, as I said, he didn't fight McConnell. He gave McConnell what he wanted and he endorsed him. Vivek had that great moment in the last debate, calling Romney, whatever her name is, Rona Romney McDaniel, out and saying, why don't you come up here on the stage and I'll yield my time if you can tell us, basically explain yourself, that you have led the party to ruin. Okay, well, I applaud that, but that also, puts off my meter when it comes to Vivek, which is, I don't know how genuine you are, because you act like a Trump sycophant. And the whole reason she's in charge instead of someone else is because Trump endorsed her. Trump put his weight behind her, and that's why she's in charge. Okay, well, so why doesn't the buck stop with Trump? Why does it always stop somewhere right before him?
Well, but that's the thing. I hate the Vivek's a Trump sycophant thing because he refuses to insult him. He has said verbatim that I think Trump did a lot of good things, but I am going to do things better. That's his stance. He was good, but I'm better, versus all the other candidates saying he was horrible.
Problem is, he wasn't good. And this is my last point on it, is this has been brewing for a while.
Okay, well, good is we're using a broad term. Good as in did good things as a president versus good as in a good person.
He did a couple of good things. The problem is he didn't do good with a capital G. Therefore, there was no lasting change. And this is evidenced by this is who he is. He talks a lot about loyalty and gives absolutely none to the people who supported him unless they are sycophants. You can't just support him. In fact, a lot of people get away with going against his agenda just by giving lip service and to the previous article, pandering to that rabid pro-Trump populist crowd. But then their actions are totally against that. But they get away with it because it's all about the personality, because this is a student council election. All right. So I have ranted before about how Trump is still pushing the I saved millions with the jab thing. But even worse than that is the fact that he has not done a damn thing to help the J6ers. Hundreds, if not thousands of people either in confinement or under investigation. And he has not put his political capital on the line and put his weight behind them to help them.
This is a razor's edge topic, though, because the emotional part of me wants to say, yeah, you should have been out there backing him and doing this, that. But he's also under indictment for leading the thing. And how much support of them now would be used as evidence against him?
But okay, and my counter to that is twofold. First of all, it was going to happen anyway, and you knew it was going to happen anyway. So why aren't you making this all part of one big issue? Because he can't, because it's all about him. And two, it does tie together, and even where it tied more directly, he wouldn't help people. So the pro-Trump people are screeching at some of these people who cut deals in like the Georgia case. And part of that deal was to give an affidavit to the prosecutor's office. Well, Trump from the beginning said he wasn't helping any of them, that none of his legal defense fund was going to help these people who were his staffers. They were his people, and he's not helping them at all. But how dare you be disloyal to me? Shut up. If and this is why I want to get to this, because to me, this is the icing on top of the stinky cake. This is the shit frosting on top of the crap cake. If you are one of those people who are sharing the Trump Jesus memes, and I mean this seriously and literally, stop it. You are endangering your soul. And I say that very specifically and very carefully. Go back to our first Sunday school episode where I said the reason I was so hesitant to start in the first place is because the scariest verse in the Bible is, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out demons and heal the sick and raise the dead in your name? And Jesus says, depart from me, I knew you not. And connect that to what was an epiphany for me, which was Prager explaining, do not take the Lord's name in vain. Do not carry the Lord's name in vain. You are doing that when you share these obnoxious memes with Jesus and Trump. Okay. There's a very influential group in Iowa called the Family Leadership Council, and it's led by a guy named Bob Vander Plots, who was a school principal and basketball coach, and then he went on to start this ministry. So this isn't just any old 501c3 that does political work. They do political work, but their primary goal is as an evangelical ministry to promote family values. The promoting family values politically in policy is secondary to their ministerial goal. So he is attacking a ministry, and he's doing it knowing he is bearing false witness. And I can say that for two reasons. One, because even before Trump went out and slammed this endorsement, when Bob Vander Plots, who doesn't usually get into the primaries, came out and he and his group officially endorsed DeSantis. And Trump came out and called him a scammer. The former high school accountant from Iowa will do anything to win, something which he hasn't done in many years. He's more known for scamming candidates than he is for victory. But now he's going around using disinformation from the champions of the art, the Democrats. I don't believe anything Bob Vander Plots says. Anyone who would take $95,000 and then endorse a candidate who is going nowhere is not what elections are all about. The Trump camp floated this idea to Reuters before he came out on this screen. Reuters looked into it, and they published a story saying we can't find any malfeasance here whatsoever. So Reuters, who certainly isn't friendly to the right and wouldn't be friendly to an evangelical ministry or the governor of Florida, they couldn't find any dirt here. Not only that, but you are suing multiple media outlets for wrongly reporting how much Truth Social is losing. And you are doing the exact same thing to a Christian ministry. This man has lost all right to the GOP candidacy for anyone who is even remotely Christian conservative.
Let me have a second to formulate thought here. Okay, so let me make something very clear. I don't want Trump to be the next president. I think you're being a little unfair to Vivek because there is something we have not had. Vivek on the debate stage with Trump. And he is playing a game where he is not being disrespectful to somebody who's not specifically speaking to him. And so there's that. But if I have to pick if I have to pick a candidate right now, my first filter is warmonger or not. And that narrows it down to 3. That's RFK, Vivek, and Trump. And Trump is my lowest on that list. The other 2, I would love to see them debate before I make a decision there. But so my first filter already narrows it down to 3, and he's in those 3. Do I think he's better than the establishment GOP? Yes. Do I think he's a good person? No. Do I think he will do whatever it takes to float his own ego? Yes. Is that more predictable than a Machiavellian psychopath? Yes. Is that better than Obama? Yes. So as long as his narcissism aligns with what's good for us, then we're in business. And that's what comes out in the election. And unfortunately, we're going to get Biden versus him again. That's the
problem with
unfortunate part.
that is at what cost? The problem with Trump is at what cost?
Well,
Because
the problem with Biden is at what cost?
well, no, but take away the Biden. I don't give a damn about Biden. Take him out of the picture because first of all, the whole idea is, well, we have to beat Biden. Okay, yeah, but we're not there yet. Right now, we're trying to decide who's the nominee.
Well, so look, let's. I don't mind telling my vote now that RFK is an independent, and it doesn't matter if I vote in the Democratic primary anymore. I'm going to vote in the Republican primary and vote for Vivek. There you go. That's where I stand. So I mean, I will counterpoint on Trump, but I'm not going to defend him in any way, shape, or form.
For me, the reason this specific example is a Rubicon moment is because we have gone beyond Trump's personality is annoying. Okay. He is painting a target on a Christian ministry that is doing valuable work in their community and in their state, knowing that the Justice Department, knowing firsthand that the Justice Department is out to get conservative groups. Even if we didn't know about what happened with the IRS and the Obama administration, this is a 501c3. If they had actually done what is being alleged here, which is DeSantis gave the group $95,000 and then they endorsed him, the IRS would destroy them because that's illegal. So this is beyond, I'm annoyed because this group gave my opponent their endorsement. Okay. This goes beyond belittling and besmirching them. He is painting a target on their back to have them destroyed by the media and the Justice Department. And that's what I mean by at what cost? What is going to be the collateral damage of continuing to back this person who is so, back to our through line from the first part of today's episode, the dangerous narcissism of Trump.
Well, so there is a remedy for this. If it is that damaging and that consequential, then there's a remedy. We talked about frivolous lawsuits before. This is a legitimate lawsuit. Mm-hmm. This is a defamation suit.
This is Elon Musk is suing Media Matters and is probably going to destroy them the way Hulk Hogan destroyed, was it Gawker, who released his sex tape? Yeah. And then was destroyed in that lawsuit. And Trump is suing, I forget, like half a dozen media outlets for reporting on the financial state of Truth Social. And I listened to an interview with Vanderplots, and he said, yeah, there might be legal ramifications here, but right now we're wrapped up in the primary and we're focused on that. So after that, we'll see. But frankly, I don't think it should be a we'll see. This is wrong and there need to be consequences.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's part of the remedy to tie the two episodes together is we need judges and jurors to laugh away these ridiculous things, but go extra hard on the consequential ones, especially one that's as consequential as who leads this country. Right. Mm-hmm. That's how we restore trust. Right now, nobody trusts the justice system when it comes to Trump because there's been so much frivolous stuff thrown at him lately. But if there's a legitimate one, it should go at him.
And it is there in his own words that the words I were reading were his post on Truth Social about this. And so that's the big picture. But then again, back to the small picture is, okay, the people you listen to, like I got sick of listening to Crowder the other day because they're becoming so sycophantic with Trump and I had to turn it off. And usually I listen to it because he makes me laugh. Well, I wasn't laughing. This is annoying. If you're someone who posts all the time about how much you love Trump, then you should be posting, however small your friend and family group is. I support him wholeheartedly for all of these reasons, but this is wrong and he needs to correct this because it is. Because if you give a damn about the underlying principles of the conservative movement, but also of the MAGA movement, of the Trump movement, then you should care about the truth here. Yep.
Everybody who is doing this kind of crap should get hit hard. That's the solution. Enough of this. I saved somebody's life. I'm going to sue them. But I am destroying people's lives. We need to start hitting these people hard with the legal system. And that's the only way it's going to end. We need to hit them hard and win. And that's the only way it's going to end, because no more of this media going, oh, it was an opinion piece. Rachel Maddow, everybody knows she's got a little bias. She can say whatever she wants. She says whatever she wants to millions of people. Yes. And then gets quoted in other stories by other news outlets as fact.
And you have seen some of this, like Nick Sandman, who was the guy that the obnoxious faux Indian guy was pounding a drum in front of his face, and the media went on the kid and tried to destroy him. And reportedly, because it's all this stuff isn't disclosed, he sued multiple media outlets for hundreds of millions of dollars. Here's the problem, though. In the same way that it's a problem that BlackRock and Vanguard and those groups are propping up places like Disney, which are going so woke they should be broke, but they get subsidized because BlackRock and Vanguard have trillions upon trillions of dollars of your money because most of their assets under management are pension funds. So they're being subsidized by that, in the same way that Trump or any candidate who goes off the reservation, who goes off the rails in obviously wrong statements and actions like this, they're being subsidized by the sycophants. They're being subsidized by the people who refuse to call him out for anything. And as I said, both the media personalities and just the average schmoes who post and retweet in support of him should all be saying loudly, this is wrong and you need to correct this. Because those who don't are subsidizing his ability to continue to be terrible. In the same way that Vanguard and BlackRock are subsidizing Disney's ability to be terrible. So that it's however much we complain about Disney, they're going to keep going because they don't have to suffer the consequences. Well, the same thing's happening on your side. What are you going to do about it?
I'm looking for something. You brought up Disney, and they just released a statement to their investors.
Basically blaming the audience, that the audience's tastes are fickle.
No,
and
it was admitting that they did things that didn't resonate with their audience.
They were tacitly admitting, yes.
Yeah, so there's
that. But they didn't go far enough to say it was because we got political. They were just basic. It was a
well, they said values. Compliment. They said our values aren't aligning with our audience.
Okay.
Yeah, something to that extent. So.
My eye roll moment was, well, people's tastes change. No, y'all just started making crap and shoving politics into it.
Well, they did shelve Snow White, so.
Oh, hey, what do you know? It's Christmas miracle. All right, well, I'm done ranting.
No, that's good. I mean, I wanted to make clear where I stand. I was, playing devil's advocate a little bit for the T-Man, but it's the dread is we're going into another cycle of the lesser of evils, but they're all evil. And so, not all evil, but of those two choices. And I know you're trying to talk about, I guess my mistake in this conversation was I talked about the presidency and you're talking about the primary. And I tried to kind of recorrect my own ship with talking of who I would vote for over Trump. But yeah, we know he's a horrible person. We know he's a narcissist. It just, maybe I would consider DeSantis over him because he kind of waffles on the foreign policy stuff a little bit. And I would have to see where if he's like putting his finger on the pulse. That's the one thing he doesn't give a hard answer on. So I would be open to a debate between him and Trump. But yeah, on the Republican side, there's only one option because everybody else is a warmonger. I can look Nikki Haley in the eye and say, I will not vote for you because you are willing to kill people for money.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki Clinton, Hillary Haley, Nikki Haley. What more was Benghazi?
I like that.
Benghazi was killing people to cover up your money grab.
Yeah. Yep.
That we ended the other one so positive and we ended this one so negative. God, politics ruins everything.
Well, all right, fine. On the bright side, you made the point, and I do think this is a bright side that hold on, let me look up real quick because I can't remember the numbers exactly of the 1992 election results. Why am I looking that up?
Because there was a major third party.
Because there was a major third party, and Ross Perot got 18.9% of the vote. I think RFK could surpass that. I think he will surpass that if it's Trump versus Biden. So
and especially if all three of them are on the debate stage together.
You have a legitimate third party candidate. You do not have to vote for the lesser of two evils. You can say, you know what? As I've said, I don't like RFK's answer on abortion. I don't like his answer on certain fiscal issues. But you know what? I believe he is who he says he is. More than says, I believe he is who he has demonstrated himself to be over the years.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we talked about a fixed pattern, a fixed behavior pattern, and his years as a lawyer against the EPA, against all of these entities, has fixed something deep into his bones that he wants to get the corruption out of those agencies. And to me, that is the number one issue.
So you other two people, you can say all you want things that make me go, ooh, I like that.
But he's been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can believe that RFK is going to attempt to do the things he says he's going to do. And you know what? Some of those things I probably won't like, but a lot of them I will like. So, and I appreciate what his priorities are.
And I think on the consequential things that he's kind of weak on, he's also not a hawk in the other direction.
Yes.
Like foreign affairs. Yeah. Okay. So he kind of fudges a little bit there, but he is a pull back person. He's not a get out completely person, but he's a pull back person. So he's not quite the we're pro Israel or we're pro Palestine, or he's not quite the, Ukraine over Russia at any cost.
If you don't like Biden or Trump, you have a legitimate option here. And yeah, he's not going to be perfect for either side of that, the traditional Democrat or the traditional Republican. But if he gets 30% of the vote, and he may not win a single state, but if he wins a few, wins enough to throw the election to the House, which is where it goes if there's not an electoral college majority, that could legitimately destroy one or both parties. And frankly, that's a win to me.
That is a win.
Because the party system has become so utterly corrupt and so elitist that it doesn't care about what its members want.
At the minimum, the party that wants to win in the future is going to say, this is the direction we need to go.
Yes. Well, we managed to dig out a positive from that. So go us.
Go us. Huzzah. All right. Well, we'll have time next time. Hopefully, if you listen to both of these, then we appreciate your loyalty. Share and like and subscribe and send us out to your friends and family or your worst enemies.
Especially if you didn't like us.
especially if you didn't like us. But just blast us out there as another voice because we're just two old men bitching and moaning. But Wheel of Time Friday, we're back at it. We took all of last week off, so we had a lot to bitch and moan about. So that's why we have 2 episodes today. If you have any the topics you are curious about after listening to these 2 or any of our other episodes, send us some topics, man. That might be interesting to have something fresh that doesn't come from our own biased minds. So
See y'all next time.
later.